Okay. Welcome to episode 5, I think, of the Courage Economy podcast. I've been told that I'm too close to the camera, so I'm going to try to stay back here, which hopefully will make it a little more comfortable for you guys. So, we've talked about a lot in the first 4 episodes about the creation of a courage economy, the destruction of the lie economy, why the lie economy is so damaging to your organization and the organizational drag it creates, and why a courage economy is going to be enormously beneficial for your organization. We talked about how a courage economy is essentially an environment where truth is cheaper than lies, where it makes more rational sense to tell the truth than it does to tell a lie or fib or tell a white lie or omit something or whatever word you want to put on all of the dishonesty that happens throughout organizations all the time. We talked about the importance of important work. When we think about why is it that people engage in all of this sort of subterfuge that goes on in all organizations, and we talked about how it's because of two things: optimizing for comfort. Nobody wants to be uncomfortable. It's easier sometimes to just tell a lie than it is to tell the truth so that we don't feel discomfort. And the other is the will. Schopenhauer's formulation of that desire and drive within each one of us that urges us to acquire hunger, appetite. Excellent for survival, but can prompt us to do things that we might not think are the best things to do. I think we related a story at one point about a woman I worked with who took credit for someone else's work. Now, she was a wonderful person, um, absolutely a joy to talk to and even work with. Why did she take credit for someone's work? Because she knew it would help her career if she wasn't caught. Probably thought it was a low likelihood that she would be found out, but it would help her career. She wanted to be promoted. Why did she want to be promoted? Well, she was probably ambitious, but also being promoted would get her more salary. And what would she do with that salary? Sure, she'd buy stuff, but she could pay her mortgage. She could send her kids to school, send them to college. She needed that promotion, and her kids needed her to get that promotion. And so, if it was easy enough to tell that lie and to take credit for someone else's work, and she thought she would never be caught for it, and the payoff was that she could be promoted for it, well, the will is strong within all of us. That's not to excuse people that fall prey to that, but that's a thing. That's a thing. Um, and so anyway, to overcome this, it's not enough to tell people be more courageous, be more honest. If encouraging people to do that would work, as I said, I think a few episodes ago, I've had to lose 15 pounds for forever, and everybody exhorting me and me exhorting myself to do it certainly hasn't worked. So exhorting people to be more courageous, to be more honest, it doesn't work. That is not. We always do that, and it doesn't work because every organization I've worked with is rife with lies. And so we talked about the first component of a courage economy is important work. And we talked about why that's so. And we talked about the idea of honoring important work, right? How do people know it's important work? Well, they know when you honor it. How do you honor it? Well, you make time for it. You provide resources for it. You talk about it. You measure it. You rate people's performance against it. You talk about it some more. You pay attention to it. Everybody knows what's important to the organization because that is what it looks like. And so engaging in important work is one important factor, actually probably the most important factor of getting rid of the lie economy. And why is that? Because when people are doing important work, they don't want to lie, or they won't lie. They won't tolerate lies. I asked a question last time. Think about the time when you were involved in something truly important. Maybe it was with your children. Would you tolerate lies? Would you tolerate all that nonsense? No, you wouldn't. So as an organization, it's incumbent on us to create the circumstances where lying becomes more costly than the truth. And the best way to do that is to make sure that we are engaging in important work. And when we're engaging in important work, I think I talked about, maybe I didn't, but I talked about the outage at a nuclear power plant. Yes, I did talk about that. In an outage, the lie economy withers. Humans are working together, so it's always around, lurking. But in an outage, the lies go away. And why? Because the work is too critical, too important, and everybody's too invested in the outcome for lies to be tolerated. So if that is so, why do we not design our work such that it is critical enough, important enough, and people are invested in it enough so that they won't tolerate lies and BS? I call that designed productive struggle. Now, it sounds worse than it is. Why would we want our people to struggle? Well, I mean, I don't want people to suffer unnecessarily. But if something is important, then it's in some ways necessarily a struggle. Right? I mean, if I say as an organization, we want to increase our safety by a factor of 5, just off the top of my head, that's hard to do. That's hard to do. And if it's important and difficult to do, and people are invested in that outcome, then the likelihood that they will engage in a bunch of nonsense lying is less. It becomes more rational, or it begins to become more rational to tell the truth. So we as leaders can look at all the things we do and figure out, okay, what is critically important that we solve for as an organization or as a team or as a department? Let's do something that is difficult to achieve and that's critically important for our organization. What's the outcome going to be? The outcome is going to be that people are now struggling together to accomplish something important. And in so doing, the rest of the Courage Economy framework begins to reveal its importance. So we'll touch again on designed productive struggle, but when engaged in important work, one of the most important attributes that you must sort of embed in your organization is this idea of curiosity. Questions are poison to a lie economy. And in a lie economy, you can tell that people think about the questions they're going to ask. Should I ask that question? If I do, I might get smacked for it. Or if I ask that question, is it going to rub this person the wrong way? Am I going to get, am I going to reveal that I have an opinion about something that maybe is not approved? I don't know. Maybe it's better to just not ask questions. Or better yet, the leader, any questions, anybody? Anybody asks a question that tends to threaten the trajectory or whatever, that's quickly shut down. Yeah, we'll parking lot that. We'll parking lot that. And of course, no one ever redresses it again. The asking of questions is dangerous to leaders who work within a lie economy and don't mind the lie economy, because questions can reveal the lie. And so it's important that all questions are not only welcomed, but solicited. And solicited honestly. You're engaged in important work. You're engaged in critical work. Okay, the objective is to find the truth. The objective is to figure out what is the best course of action. And the only way to understand the answer to that and come to the truth of that is to debate it, to wrestle with it, to ask questions. And the questions can and should come from anywhere in the organization. And you as a leader should ask those questions and want an honest answer, even if the honest answer is not something that you particularly care for. Think about why you don't care for the honest answer. Does it threaten something? Does it threaten the plan you have or the project plan that you have? Think about why you would object to an honest question. And you don't have to agree with the question, right? Or you don't have to, if someone says, why don't we think about doing it a different way? You don't have to agree with it. You just have to hear it. And you have to actually consider it. And you have to actually, measure it against what you know and be open to the possibility that you don't have all the answers, that there is information that you are not aware of, that there is a perspective that you had not thought of. And it is in the wrestling of those ideas that, hold on a second. It is in the wrestling of those ideas that we come to the truth. And in a courage economy, that is always the objective, to be a maximally truth-telling organization. We don't engage in nonsense, and we don't engage in all kinds of the bullshittery that you see all over corporate America. We are here to solve an important problem or important problems together. We're here to engage with each other in a spirit of curiosity. Another thing curiosity does is that if I object or I have a difference of opinion, it with a curious perspective, and when curiosity is a norm in your organization, it lets that person understand or recognize that you care about them and their opinion. Like if you stop and listen and say, okay, what's your opinion? What do you think about that, Bob? Asking them what they think of it, asking them for their opinion, asking them for a potential different perspective, telegraphs to them that you essentially honor them enough, care enough about their opinion to ask for it and to be open to it. What does that do? Well, it makes everybody feel good, right? Wow. But that doesn't mean you have to agree with it. It just means people just want to be heard. If somebody has a different opinion, they want to be heard, especially if it's important work. If it's important work, they definitely want to be heard. And they want to be heard. And if you say, okay, well, thank you for that opinion and that perspective, let's think about that. Or, oh, that's a great idea, but here's why that's not going to work. What do you think of that? Right? People just want to be heard. That you don't have to agree with everybody all the time. There's nothing soft about a courage economy. There's nothing like, let's hold hands and whatnot. No. The curiosity is part of the struggle to understand what the best outcome is. And if it's not worth the struggle, then it's not important. Definitionally. If it's important, it's worth the struggle. If it's important, it's worth listening to, other ideas. If it's important, it's worth debating. It's worth wrestling with. It's worth arguing about. If it's not worth those things, then it's not really that important. And you know what? There's a lot of work we do that's not important. And that's okay too. Tell your people, look, I'm not going to BS you. This isn't all that important. It has to be done. Let's just bang it out. Let's do a good job banging it out and getting over with. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's a much better answer than saying, filing these papers is a critical part of our document retention strategy. Yeah, okay. I mean, the papers have to be filed, but don't try to present it as if it's some, mission critical thing. It's not. It's just filing of papers. Be honest with people about it, and they'll respect you for it. You're like, okay, I know this is not important. And he knows it's not important. It has to be done. At least he respects me enough to tell me the truth. I can't tell you how many times I've seen, people try to paint some non-important nonsense as some mission critical, business when it's not. They think that if they don't paint it like that, nobody will engage with it. All you do is just basically telegraph to people that we're in a lie economy. Okay, now I have to discern as a person, is this actually critical or is it not critical? Because when real critical work comes along, are they going to believe you? Because you've been lying to them for the last 6 months about all the nonsense that you're having them do, or not nonsense, necessary work, but painting it as if it's critical. When real critical work comes along, everybody, this is mission critical. They're going to be like, okay, yeah. That's what he said about filing the papers. So, I'll end here. Curiosity. We'll address it again, but that's the second pillar of the courage economy framework. Important work, and as you engage with it with curiosity. And we'll talk about the other three: challenge, trust, community. Look me up, thane.substack.com or at The Courage Economy on Substack. You can find me on LinkedIn, Thane Bellomo, and you can find me at bellomoleadership.com, where the Organizational Courage Index will be coming out soon. Developed a framework around the courage economy where you can measure where you are in the courage economy. Do you have a lie economy or do you have a courage economy? And where are you in between? And once you start measuring things, we can start doing something about it. Okay. That's it for today. Thanks, folks. See you.